Disclaimer: the views and opinions expressed on this podcast are those of the individual guests or creators and do not necessarily represent the views of their employers, business partners, affiliates, or advertisers. Any opinions, advice, or statements made on this podcast are not intended to be taken as fact or professional advice. Please consult a qualified professional before making any decisions based on the content of this podcast.
Hi everybody, welcome to Untapped Azania. My name is Maureen, the even the queen, the even the princess, or Pindura the answer, whichever one you prefer. Welcome to another episode once again. I do not chill alone. I chill with the one and only
Mash D.
How you doing, Mash D?
I'm fresher, my fresh.
Just get fresher. What's the mood? What's the temperature, my dog?
The diamonds, the diamonds in production,
Always
They're
good.
glowing greater than the pressure.
Okay, we love that. Welcome to another episode once again. If you're new here, please subscribe. Let us know what you've been tapped into so we can tap into that as well. If you're returning, what have you been doing? Let us know what you've been tapped into. Subscribe, hit us up. Let's get talking. But without wasting any more time. My dog, What have you been tapped into?
This has been like a crazy ass week,
Yeah.
But it was also my birthday week,
Yay!
So I mean that came with a lot of love. It's always nice to receive love. I'm not afraid of receiving love. I'm not insecure about it. So yeah, I liked how much love I was getting. I got a very, very interesting message from one of my older nieces, and she's like, the diamonds in production are glowing greater than the pressure. And I'm like, okay, it means the podcast is marinating.
The message is
in
getting
these kids'
through.
mind, Yeah, so it's for the kids, and it's great that the kids are listening. Yeah,
Love
so
that.
yeah, I mean that's a first, So yeah, I really, really liked receiving all the love that I was able to receive. And I was very appreciative of it as well. I even became a plant dad,
Ooh, look at you.
to a beautiful peace lily. But in addition to that, the budget speech, it was finally delivered. I got to watch it. I didn't watch it in real time because I was a bit busy, but I watched it afterwards. I even watched the reactions. I think it was anti-poor. It was very anti-poor. The initially proposed 17% VAT, or like the 2% increase from 15 to 17, rather. I'm glad that didn't happen, but VAT increased regardless, and I think that's something that, given the current state of the economy, shouldn't be something that is being tampered around. Amongst the reactions, the one reaction that I kind of resonated with most, and the other episode I did outline how I feel about your corporate tax because of how much it could be discouraging to foreign direct investments, how much it could be discouraging to just businesses that even just operate locally, in that they can jump ship, they can move abroad, right? But I think it was the from a cost benefit analysis, looking from the outside, I would play around that rather than VAT. I think they should have been a bit more thoughtful around that, because the corporate tax rate in fact, if we look at the corporate tax rate from 94 up to this point, it's predominantly decreased. It's been on the down and down and down and down. So I think it's something they should have considered looking at. Because even if you look at something like AGOA, which is on
Topical.
people's, very topical because of the US and stuff, I feel like our relationship, if you actually look into AGOA and what it entails, our relationship with the US is mutually reinforcing. It's not like we are asking them for handouts. They actually need us.
Yeah.
So there's that. But also I think also a wealth tax, fam. Like, we are the most unequal country in the world. Our Gini coefficient, which is a measure between 0 and 1, is closest to 1. Like, it's closer to 1 than... So the closer you are to 1, the more unequal your society is. We are the closest country to 1. So I think that speaks to the significance of us having to look at the super wealthy. Maybe not even the 1 percentile, but the 0.1. Like, the 10 richest individuals, maybe, because they probably have way more resources than 90% of the South African population, which doesn't make sense. So I think that could have been something that they looked at, a wealth tax. And even with that, like, people aren't going to just leave. People have families. People have investments. Like, it's not like, so many rich people have an incentive to actually stay. South Africa isn't a bad country. Like, South Africa is actually a great country. It's one of the best countries in the world, especially for a black person to live in. I'd even make the argument that it's actually the best country for a black individual to actually live in. I can't think off the top of my head of like any other country that's better for like a black South African to live in. So for me, it was that. I mean, a good highlight, I guess, because I'm also not like a doomsday type guy. I also try to see the positive in all the negatives. The one aspect which I would feel was like that, which I would say was pro-poor in the budget, was I don't know the specific amount, but they're going to invest quite a bit into our railway system and like new trains. And it's predominantly in remote areas, right? And there's something that I kind of came across recently, might have been by the World Bank, or it was not World Economic Forum, probably World Bank, but it was a report that basically outlined how South Africans, and I guess it's the South Africans that are low-income earners, right, spend more than 50% of their income on transportation and electricity. So imagine working a whole month and like most of your income is spent on electricity and like transport. Like, how much more do you have to just like live outside of like invest? And it's impossible to invest. So yeah, for me it was, those were my key reflections on the budget. But for the most part, I just feel like it was anti-poor. And when I was looking at the reactions, also this government of selected unity, right?
Selected unity.
Yeah. Because I feel like if it was a GNU in its originality, because words have meaning, right? Sometimes we need to remind people that words have actual meaning. It's like every political party would be a part of it. That's what it would entail. So it's a coalition, to say the least, which predominantly has the Democratic Alliance and the ANC at the forefront. And they're joined by a bunch of other political parties, your Patriotic Alliance, Build One SA, Rise Mzansi. But like, it's going to break apart. I wouldn't say absolute certainty because no one told me, but I can speak now with some level of certainty just from me reading the body language, just from me reading sort of the sentiment. Because you've got Build One SA, they didn't endorse it. Musi was clear that, probably when they do vote on it, they're probably going to vote against it. You had the Democratic Alliance that also, according to Steenhuisen, went for it. You've got Rise Mzansi, which was sort of like indifferent, but they were leaning more in support, I can say. IFP leaning more in support. Good. Is it good? Patricia DeLille?
It is
good party, leaning more towards Bantu Holomisa's party. UDM leaning more towards. So you've got a few people that are willing, because the thing is, if you're saying you're part of a government of selected unity, like the unified sort of bloc
should be
should be on the same page. You know, like it's almost like, imagine someone's asking us something about Untapped, and if I feel like if it's the first time we're ever asked about something publicly, I'd rather have you answer, and then I just endorse whatever you say. And if there are parts of what you said that I don't endorse, I'll speak about it to you privately.
Okay.
You get what I'm saying?
I hear
Like
you.
we
I
can't.
hear you.
It's like if
be
even as a couple, dude, like I wouldn't want to fight with my significant other
In front of
publicly.
people- in front of
No,
people.
like I'd rather just take it. I'd rather just take it and then perhaps engage on it. So
I
yeah,
hear you.
yeah.
I mean, a few things that like stick out to me with the budget speech, because if I remember correctly, right, a couple of years ago, the DA was pro vet increase at some point, right? If I remember correctly, and then with
Also,
the recent
DA was pro. Not even pro, but they were against the idea of a bloated cabinet. Now that they have deputy
People-
ministerial roles, and
they also have them, but you
Yeah.
know. But what sticks out to me is that when the 17% was proposed, they were obviously against it and they were fighting against it, and now they've kind of came back to like some form of agreement. I'm assuming, because now we're at a lesser amount, and it is interesting to me that their view has changed. And I was wondering, and I was just thinking about why that would be the case. And I can't help to think that maybe they're thinking, come election time, they actually, as much as the DA caters for the white people in the country and the people that are more affluent, more, I guess we can say, who are more on the middle class side and above. So say middle class,
upper middle, yeah.
upper middle class and upper class, maybe white or black at this stage. We can actually even debate that, because they wouldn't have gotten that much if
It was just white.
If it was just white. But I actually now start thinking that they are probably trying to appeal to a more lower class, right? And specifically because they are in the Western Cape, they would want to, first of all, maintain the Western Cape and keep it on their side, but also to make sure that they still keep or even gain the votes of the colored communities in the Western Cape. And the colored communities, they know, are in spaces where they are in the lower class and they're not in the middle or upper middle class or even... so I think the change in like direction sort of feeds into, I mean, I'm not a political analyst, but it tells me something about how they're moving into the next election. They're trying to get, okay, we've gotten the middle, upper middle, upper class, let's try and get the lower middle class. And who is most accessible to us? The colored community. And how do we do that? We try to do these things where we fight against the VAT increase, right?
You've actually just articulated why I think the thing is going to break apart, because you've got all these little parties, part of the selected unity, and they're acting for their constituents. And not in favor of like the South African majority.
Yeah. So they have their own interest. But so it's almost like trying to have your cake and eat it too, in that you're part of this GNU, Government of Selected Unity, so it's GSU. You're part of it and you say you're part of it, but in the background you're working your way into kind of breaking it apart, or even just increasing your amount of influence within that government of selected or national unity, whichever one you prefer in that instance. It's actually an interesting take. And it actually reminded me, when I was in my final year, right, I wrote my dissertation on competition law. And I wrote on the abuse of markets, right? And there was a case I wrote on, which was it was a very famous. I don't know if I can say the name, but it was a very famous bread brands, like brands that produce bread in the country, that colluded to selling the bread, the price of bread at a certain amount, right? Basically,
So there's
price
more than
fixed.
one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
basically price fixed
So like a cartel.
type thing, right? And it's like, bro, like these things are so, like, they make me so angry because things like a vet increase of like, yo, even if it's just like even if it's anything, it affects the poorest the most. Because
And,
for
and
a
the fact that
person,
they're even open enough to say, it's like, because this is a 1% increase.
Yeah,
They're
but-
saying it's 0.5 and then 0.5. But it's
it's-
also like, when you table a budget, right? You're tabling something that is innately supposed to create some growth. You're saying this is how we're going to spend money to create growth. So if you're forecasting for an increase in VAT, you're saying we're not going to grow.
Yeah, but I think also it's like you don't see the growth. You're trying to cover for what's not happening right now, because the growth that you're thinking of, it's going to take a bit of time. There's a lot of things that need to happen for that growth to actually happen, right? But there's problems that right now you need money right now, and there isn't a quick solution that you have come up with that solves the right now problem. The problem that you have come up with, the solution that you have come up with to solve the right now problem is the VAT increase. So I think that's how I read it. I'm reading it as, okay, we might have plans in the future to solve whatever issues we have, but at the moment we need something. We need money, right? And how do we do that? We don't have we as the government of national or selected unity don't have any other option. But what we're going to do is we're going to increase the VAT, because what is the alternative? And I would have liked the guys to have shown me which other alternatives they had explored before they just landed on the VAT increase, for example. You know what I mean? Because I get it. The thing is, and I guess it's criticism that has been going around with the D as well, opposing the increase. People are like, yes, you're opposing the VAT increase, which you were pro a couple of years ago. Now you're opposing it. What is the alternative that you have proposed to the current problems that we face? Right?
Yeah.
So in that government of national unity or selected unity, what I would like to see, there's a lot of you here, there's deputy ministers and ministers. All of you have sat around here, have not shown to me any alternatives to the VAT increase that you have explored. And it seems as though to me you have just taken the VAT increase as the only possible solution, or at least that's how it's being presented to me as a person who doesn't understand economics or doesn't understand how.
Yeah, I feel like even they do say, like I said, like it doesn't make sense to increase corporate tax rate because you have a Glencoe that's closing plants in Rustenburg, dumb example. But, or it doesn't make sense to tax the wealthy because they'll just move to another country. But I feel like those kinds of arguments also that are presented are very lazy. It's like they don't go in depth. And also, just to add on to what you're saying about like open source the information, like let the public into the thinking and the process, right? I genuinely feel like we need to do the same for the roles, man. I want to see what the Minister of Women does on a day-to-day. Like, do we need... Like, I understand that women are going through a lot, but do we need a ministry? Because for me, I would go as far as... Because I don't know the roles and responsibilities, right? I would go as far as saying, like, perhaps the minister in presidency should be given those roles, because the president has a personal assistant in addition to having a minister in the presidency. Like, what does she... Like, it's... Like, what does the deputy minister of police do that the minister of police isn't already doing?
I hear you.
You know? So...
I hear you. But it's also like... that in itself, I feel, is a long-term kind of. So the cutting of the budgets, right? The cutting of the budgets, the rooting out corruption, and coming up with ways for us to industrialize in ways that we possibly can. I think those are long-term. These are plans that are in place that need to happen. The problem that we face now is we need money.
But how
now.
long are they long-term plans? Because I'm sure
Yeah.
Zuma was saying, I will kick out the corruption.
It's a long-term plan
You know,
as well.
so
But
I'm
my
not sure. I think it's Action SA that brought up a motion. I'm not sure if it's, I can't remember where I came across it. Maybe it's something that their Twitter account tweeted, but it was an official Action SA statement that I saw. And I think it's a motion that they're perhaps tabling for Parliament. But it was to do with what happens to someone who's a public servant that's caught for corruption. Like they need to pay an exorbitant amount as like a fine and perhaps jail time. But I feel like also that, like, if we're gonna, like, how much money are we losing? It's a lot. It's billions, right? It's more than we're probably going to raise with the 0.5 increase in VAT. So I think, dude, let's do, like, some things we need to actually just find the solutions to. Perhaps even if we have a long-term plan, let's start now. You know, like, why are people that were implicated in the past still in government? Yo, dude, even these old people that are sleeping in parliament, bro. Like, no.
I hear you.
That's not, like, those people work for us.
I hear you, fam.
You know, they work for the public. Like, I should be allowed to take a screenshot of the live footage as I'm watching it. Like, yo.
Why is this one sleeping?
Why is this one sleeping, dog?
And I think you're right. And I think my just how I feel about the situation is I want to get into how you came up with the decision you came up with. And I want to see the creative solutions. Most these people are the most competent people that we have. The old people that have been placed there, they're the ones that we are recycling, right? The old people.
Because we can't get alternatives.
You know, right? Yeah. Right? We can't get younger people in there. This people that are in government, right, that we've placed there are honorables, right? The best that we can possibly put there. I want to see the creative solutions that they thought of before they said, oh, let's just come up with a VAT increase. You know what I mean? And not the solutions that everyone is thinking of, like, because what she said, we've been hearing the same thing. Oh, like, we need to industrialize. We need to root out corruption. Oh, no.
Smart city.
Cut the ministers, cut their money, We've been hearing these things. Okay, you don't want to do any of those things. Or maybe those are long-term plans and you're working on them. What else?
Yeah.
What else? And it seems like there's nothing. And my issue is that, and going back to what I was trying to say in the beginning, is that my issue is that the people that suffer the most in all of this is the poor. When you increase the price of, this VAT increase does not affect bread, but I'm saying when companies are fixing the price of bread to a certain amount, a middle class person or an upper class, a rand or 2 rand is not that much of a difference, right? But for a person who has to catch a taxi to work, where they pay like 15 rand, 20 rand, and they use half of their income to pay for the transport to work, 2 rand makes a huge difference. It makes a lot of difference.
People buy bread. At least that segment of our society buys bread every day.
Yeah.
So it's 2 rand on a daily.
Right? For 5 days, that's 10 rand. You get me? Right? And if you have a bigger family, you're not buying one loaf of bread. You're buying more loaves of bread. So it just means that the little basket, so for 1,000 rand, say somebody earns 5,000 rand, they're they work at Pick and Pay, right? Cashier at Pick and Pay. They earn 5,000 rand. I don't know what Pick and Pay cashiers earn. I'm just kind of thinking about it. Let's just say that's 5,000 rand. That person spends 2,000 rand on transport every day, right?
And 1,000 rand or 800 rand on electricity.
Right.
Half of their income is gone.
Right? Now they have to buy food, clothes, everything else to support their family, right? All of that stuff has increased and is affected by the VAT increase, right? That means now they afford way less. If they could buy eggs, milk, bread, something, I'm
Bro, but
failing
like
to even think
let's
about.
go outside of the zero rated and think, bro, don't they deserve sweets?
But that's
and
what I'm saying.
snacks?
That's what I'm saying.
Bro.
That stuff is zero rated. It doesn't get. But I'm talking about the things that even just the things that they need
yeah.
that are not zero rated.
Yeah,
I'm not thinking of
I'm thinking like, bro, like, can they just
washing
have a
powder.
sweet,
Is washing
bro?
powder zero
Can
rated?
they just have a sweet,
Is
bro?
washing powder
Marshmallows, dog.
washing powder zero rated, fam?
I don't know.
Is perfume and deodorant
No,
zero rated?
Definitely not.
But that's stuff you need on a daily, right?
You do. A lot of toiletries are probably not zero rated.
You need that stuff on a daily. So the amount, say yes, the stuff that's not zero rated it's fine. It stays where it's at. But everything else that you are gonna put in that basket on top of the stuff that's zero rated is increasing. So instead of you spending 500 rand on the thing, maybe you're spending 550. But for somebody who has like 1,500 rand left after they've paid for everything else that they need to actually make an income, 50 rand is a lot. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it is.
And if you have a household of more than, let's just say 4, you have 4 people in the household, 4 adults in the household, and you're the only person who works in that household, you have that basket, those are toiletries for 4 people in that one basket, dog. That's a lot.
And then you have the very same DA say, decrease minimum wage.
It doesn't make sense.
Like there is no logical person that would think decreasing minimum wage gives more people opportunities.
It doesn't make sense. But anyway, politics aside, what else have you been tapped into,
Nah, that's
my
it.
dog?
That's it.
Okay.
Yeah.
What have I been tapped into? Hectic week. A lot. I tried to take a self-care day this week, which kind of worked, but sort of didn't. But that's okay. I made it through the week. I'm happy I made it through the week. But something that I was thinking about this week, which doesn't necessarily relate to current news, is the idea of safety, right? And I've always had this idea maybe at the back of my hand, but I didn't have words for it. And now I'm realizing I think I might have a word for it. And I think that safety is also an illusion. And I think true safety does not exist
Okay.
in every single way possible.
Okay.
True safety does not exist.
Give me an example.
And the reason why I'm saying that, the reason why I'm saying that is because whatever thing you have based your safety on probably changes. And let's just not touch on the spiritual, because spiritual
Okay, say my safety
is.
Let me give you an example to use me as a case study. Say I've placed my safety in the neighborhood I live in.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Yeah. So we've seen neighborhoods in South Africa just crash. We've seen neighborhoods over the years which were like really beautiful neighborhoods. They were considered safe. They were considered the best neighborhoods in the country. And you've seen the change over the years, and that has just deteriorated. Like, it has changed. And
say my safety is in my degree.
bruh, we're in the age of AI and things change all the time. Things are changing right now. And, like, think about COVID and what COVID did, right? Everything that people had placed safety on. Oh, I have a permanent job. Oh, I have a house. Oh, I have this. None of that actually was guaranteed at that point, because nobody knew the impact, the amount of impact that thing was going to have, right?
Okay.
And so
say my safety is on the fact that I'm a trust fund baby.
Yeah, but what if your COVID comes up and it crashes everything that your family owns, and it just doesn't?
Yeah, but
it
also,
doesn't-
I'm just playing with you. But I mean, like, I could be a trust fund baby. What you're saying is very interesting to me because I've never thought about it. But I could be a trust fund baby, and I'm not equipped to even, like, my parents
rule.
die, and I'm not
Yeah.
equipped to even handle
you
the
lose it
wealth.
all.
Yeah,
And you
I
lose
mean,
it-
quick riches are worse than
Things
than
that-
winning. I mean, quick riches are worse than poverty. I can't remember who said that. but
Yeah.
yeah.
Because with poverty, right? If you live in poverty, you know how to survive in poverty.
Yeah.
You know how to make yourself.
Yeah.
When you're rich and things go down and you are unable
You were
to,
never equipped. You're never taught to how. I mean, you're
know?
never taught how to handle.
that.
Yeah.
And that can even be worse than the physical thing that we're saying because it will affect your mental in some way because now you're thinking, oh my word, what is this? It's scary, you know? So the reason I was thinking of that, T, was because there's so I spoke about a chat we had at church on vulnerability once, ne? And people were just going in. And there's a guy that brought this up, and he was just saying like all of the things that you've based your life on, none of them are guaranteed.
They're not
and
concrete.
and people tend to not take risks in life because they think that it will affect their safety. But the thing is, even in that safety, there's risk that is involved. In loving people, there's risk involved. In the job you do, there's risk involved. If you're an entrepreneur, there's risk involved. Whatever thing you decide to do, trust friends, don't get married, whatever it is, have kids, don't have kids, raise them like in a safe neighborhood, raise them in an unsafe, all of this stuff, all of it involves risk. And the more we get comfortable with being uncomfortable, we can make better choices for ourselves because then you get to see life as it is and you make a conscious decision of the amount of risk you're willing to take or not to take, right? So, for example, if you can see, okay, I have a significant other that I really, really like and I want to get married. But to be fair, this person can wake up one day and decide they don't want me anymore. Am I willing to go into this and bind myself to this thing? If I can convince myself and agree within myself that I'm fine with that, right? Then it's fine. You can make that decision. But making that same decision without thinking of the possibility that there's risk involved, that this person might one day wake up and be like, I don't really like you anymore. It's very dangerous. Because when they do that, you won't be able to bounce back. Or maybe even in the situation where you think about the risk, it might be difficult to bounce back, but maybe you think about ways to actually to bounce back if it does
I
happen, or
remember
safety
this one
guards.
time, Gary V, but this was years ago, he was talking about grief.
Grief.
But grief, like losing the most important people in his life, being, I think he referenced his parents, and he's like, he's put himself in that scenario a lot of times. He's like, I've grieved them already.
Yeah.
You know, so I mean, a big thing from that for me is like, I just liked how properly you laid out something that supports my thesis. You know, the thesis I've been on, that advice is overrated. Advice is so overrated.
Yeah.
Like 90% of the time, even when the girlies discourage other girlies to go into being a YouTube content creator, when someone posted how they make a big buck from YouTube, I just always look at it from an insecure standpoint, from the person that's telling other people, go to school. You know, like it's not wrong to say, like, it's not wrong to say like go to school. I'm not discouraging school. It's great. Education is great and it comes in so many different forms. But dude, like look at what worked for you and be honest with yourself. Like maybe say you work in, what's a simple example I can make? In asset management, because I understand that maybe. Like to go into that, you for like the perfect individual that got away in, it's like you got into a graduate program, right? So let's use the graduate program as a thesis, as a case study. How many asset managers exist? And even just outside of the most prestigious ones, like ones that say, like, let's say have graduate programs. Let's be extreme and say 30 exist, and it's not even there. They might even be less than half, right?
Yeah.
Let's say 30 have graduate programs. Out of the 30, how many of them are getting grads in every year? Like on average, let's average it out to say all of them are getting 30 max.
Yeah.
Right? What's 30 times 30? 900?
Yeah.
Is
I
it?
think. Yeah, it is.
That
I
means,
did.
is it? 30 times 30 is, I think it's supposed to be 900.
I
Yes.
went to- yeah, it is.
3 times 3
It
is 9 and then the
it
two
is
zeros.
900.
Yeah. Yeah. Because it's definitely not
it's
90.
900.
Yeah, it's 900. So let's say 900, right? Higher learning institutions, right? Like now let's even leave the FETs because there are people that are well equipped, like that studied economics or whatever at colleges, FET, or like all these non-traditional type institutions. Let's only use universities.
Yeah.
Like Western Cape, UKZN, UCT, Stellenbosch, UFS. How many people are graduating in like are getting degrees or an honors qualification in things that like qualify them to get into a graduate program in asset management or finance, right? There are a lot, like say people that studied economics, people
Yeah.
like even people people that studied investments, people that studied business analytics, whatever. In addition to that, you have people that maybe studied a BSc in math that are still allowed to go into those things. There are people that studied engineering that are still allowed to go into that thing. So let's say on average, maybe 8,000 grads are coming out every year that are competing for those 900 roles, and they're grads from years prior that are trying to apply to the next year. So it's like the fact that you're working in an asset management role and you're telling the girlies to go to school, it's not sound advice.
Yeah. And that's actually assuming
Like
that
you
this
need to
person,
actually acknowledge the amount of luck that you got.
Yeah. And it's also assuming that this person that you're telling to go to school actually has the capability to go through the because university is hard, man. Like we downplay how difficult university is.
So some like institutions have target I've worked on a project where and it was big companies involved. Companies were clear. They don't put it on the job description, but they were clear that, dude, it was more tech. But they were clear that in our graduate tech graduate program, we want someone who came out record time and studied computer science at either Stellenbosch, UCT, or Rhodes. They genuinely believed that those are the institutions that give them the kinds of individuals that are equipped enough for their graduate program that they don't need to put in a lot of work into like getting better. But how many other students are applying to those companies
who don't know that's the criteria?
You know,
but yeah.
So the industry is ruthless. The corporate industry is ruthless. It's evil, and it uses people as props very much because it's only interested in the people that it cares about, and the other people are set aside. CVs are being thrown in the bin.
Pretty much.
So don't be giving people advice, bro.
And also don't be taking people's advice as well.
Yes.
Because you also need to build up the muscle for yourself again to actually do the hard things, the challenging things. When people tell you it's not gonna work, you need to have the grit to be like, nah, I believe in this so much and it's going to work. I want it to work.
Yeah. Think about how, say, the most in-line individual with your lived reality, like your lived reality is not the same. You know, like say someone that you could think, okay, maybe we went to the same kindergarten and then we went to the same primary, and then maybe you just ended up going into different high schools. Or like there's no one in the world that, like nah, dude, maybe like they had the same but maybe they just grew up with one parent and you had
Yeah.
both. Like there's too many glitches.
Even if you grew up in the same neighborhood with the similar parents, you went to the
Maybe
same school.
one of you had richer parents.
Through and through, right? Personalities, life,
Too many
how your
things.
brain is wired, we are not the same.
Like even the fact that maybe when you were growing up, your family used to go on vacay and the other person's family.
And that's a big thing.
It is.
It's such a big thing.
It's a big thing. So
But,
it's like
yeah.
your lived reality is not even close to any, like advice is overrated. It even takes me back to that video that you shared with me about success is not earned and it's just handed out.
It's just given. That was Captain America.
I've been in the business 24 years, right? And I've seen people go from nothing to the biggest stars in the world. I've seen people go from one role to winning Academy Awards and doing all that. And what I realized yesterday thinking about it, we're lying to our kids, dog. And I think that's a big problem in our community. We tell our kids that and this is fresh on my heart, like I literally just came to this conclusion last night. We tell our kids if they do right and they make the good grades and they go to the programs and they will become successful. If you work hard enough, your work will be paid off. And that's not true. Success is given. It's not earned. Because you can be the most brilliant. If one person don't tap you, each one of y'all. There were people who could hit harder, who could catch better, who could run faster. But somebody said, you're the one. And the other 50 behind you fell off. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And because of that, I don't know what that emotion or that feeling is the scary thing. Because I went to all the programs. I've done Broadway. I've done off-Broadway. I've been in the business 24 years. I've been in 2 Academy Award films. I've done independent films. I've done major motion pictures. Now I'm Captain America. So now what?
Who said that? I forgot his real name, but that's an interesting interview.
And it's
by
not
the
to
way.
say, I mean, back to the Seneca quote, Yauri, luck is when preparation meets effort.
Yeah.
It's that's significant. Luck is when preparation meets effort. It's not like you did not do anything. But to be honest, any level of success you can get, there are 100 more people
You
that
need
can.
luck still.
Yeah, there are
You
100
need
more
luck
people that could just
still.
do it as good as you or even better.
A friend of mine yesterday, actually, we were having this conversation, right? He was telling me that, like, look, I ended up in this space, right? And it's a prestigious place I work in. Like, people respect this space, right? But in my high school class, I was never even the smartest person. Out of the 50 people I was in the class with in high school, out of the many hundreds people I went to varsity with, I was never, ever even part of the top students who made it out there, right? And I made it here in the space where I know people who were much better than I am, who were more invested, and they studied more and they put in more effort and they did a lot more than I did. Or maybe they just didn't do more, but they were good. They were better than I was. Their marks were better than mine. They didn't make it here. And it's like luck, dog. Like it's not, as much as you work hard, as much as you believe in the thing, you will need the luck. You will need the fortunate things to happen in your life that leads you to this place. There's many people that have been in the same situations as you that have not been afforded the opportunity to get to the place that you're in. And that's why you need to go for the thing that you like the most. You need to go for the thing that ignites you the most. Because then when you get the no's, you can still fall back on the fact that I actually like this thing. You know, I actually love doing this. So I can back off of the, even if I don't get the respect or the accolades or whatever it is, at least I can go back to this little thing. Right? So, yeah. Safety is an illusion. It does not exist. But anyway.
And advice is overrated.
Backing off of that still, I saw a video a couple of weeks ago of this guy. I think he's a comedian. He's an Asian comedian. And he was explaining how guns don't use electricity. And he was like, guns are like the most effective tool. How that thing is designed. An AK-47, for example, that thing just goes. Just goes, right? Just goes. Doesn't use electricity.
Mm.
Think about that for a second.
Like, I'm just mind blown.
Now, like, I will insert the video. I still have the video. I'll send it.
You ever think about how guns don't use electricity? Isn't that crazy? Something this consequential and it doesn't have to be plugged in or charged. I'm not like a gun guy, but from a design perspective, it's pretty impressive. I mean, you look at a gun like the Glock 19, it's like every aspect of it is designed to work. You know, form follows function. It's kind of perfect. Compare guns to like cars. Every year, Toyota has to come out with a new Corolla, not because they improved on the last one, but because that's how you sell cars. I mean, guns are designed to shoot things. Cars are designed for car salesmen. And salesmen need features. They need jargon. You don't really think about guns as being technology, but that's just because they actually work. If anything, they actually work too well. Imagine if big tech companies made guns. Like a Smith & Wesson gun would need Smith & Wesson bullets. And you would need a subscription for some reason. You get a Glock for your birthday, and the first thing you have to do is download a software update.
And he was diving into that to say, like, this is the most dangerous thing to human life.
Okay. Yes,
Right?
and that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking like militarily, like your level of firearmery represents to a certain extent how great you are as like an economic power.
Yeah.
You know, like if you're gonna judge the best countries in the world by any metric, part of sort of that rubric involves, do you have nuclear?
Yeah.
Do you have firearms? Like, how good are they?
Can't be switched off. You can't, like, you there is no switch where you can go and say, no, in the main switch where we're going to switch off all these guns not to work. You just pull that thing and it works. And think about all the things around you that need electricity to work, right? That need the power to just function, right?
Yeah.
And they're all essential for human life.
Yeah,
But nobody has
why
created-
haven't also why haven't we used our inventiveness to do the important things?
Yeah. To keep, during COVID, people were complaining that, the hospitals are suffering because they don't have electricity, machines, they don't have enough support, generators, blah, 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 blah. But we've created guns that kill people that work without electricity. So no one has...
Even having people that suffer, like people that still, like the most destitute individuals in our society, people living in poverty, it's a matter of choice.
Yeah.
Like, fam, if you like back on the wealth tax chat, right? If I was to ask you what economists dubbed the golden age of capitalism, golden age, like, I'm not in support of capitalism. I'm a staunch hater. But like, if you think of the golden age of capitalism, right? How much do you think tax was sitting at, especially wealth tax? Like, this is the golden age of capitalism.
I don't know.
Like, throw a number and I'll say go up or go down.
Golden age of capitalism. I don't know.
Throw a number.
5%.
Let's keep going up, fam. And you can use
10%.
multiply that by 4 and still go up. It was
60%.
It was above that. Post World War II. So this is just after, I think, 1955. Like maybe 53, but like between 53 and like early 60s.
Yeah.
We had tax at over 90%. And
Damn.
economists, not in real time, but in reflection of that era, like post that era, like looking in hindsight in terms of how well things were working. During the golden age of capitalism, the US at a certain point had a tax rate above 90%.
Damn.
So don't be.
But
like
if
when
we're
you-
no, no, if we were to think about that now, imagine how much we could do.
with 60% of like a wealth tax, dude. Like, there's absolutely no reason why anyone should have over $1 billion, let alone someone has 100 billion. Like, why
That's
do you have
crazy.
100 million, bro?
That's crazy to think about.
There's no moral billionaire. Like, no moral
can-
billionaire.
yeah,
you
you
can't be
can-
moral and be a billionaire. It's impossible.
Hey, but that gets you thinking, bruh, like, what are we doing? Because we are also part of the system in some ways. And
No,
it's
I
like,
just think too many
it's a-
people are downtrodden. Like, too many people are downtrodden. There's a video stitched into our previous episode about how guys like Elon
Yeah.
want people in the lower end to just be in
we
the
must just
Squid
fight.
Game.
Let's just fight for the little. We
Yes.
shouldn't care about the 90%.
Yeah,
Let's
dude,
care about
I want to be in a position where I'm better than Maureen.
Yeah. I
I'm
don't
good
care
at-
if
no.
Maureen dies or Maureen falls
No.
off. As long as I'm fine and
Yeah.
I'm better, it's okay.
Even the guy on that video, right, Gary, he's actually someone with no incentive to be doing what he does on a daily
Yeah,
basis.
I think he was a trader.
He was one of the top traders at Citibank, and he actually made money off of betting on inequality. When people would say, "No, the world isn't going to be unequal," he studied at LSE, like one of the most prestigious like institutions. George Soros studied at LSE, and he almost bankrupted the Bank of England. But Gary bet on inequality, and that's how he made his big buck, right? And he has no incentive to do what he does, but he's willing to do what he does. And I think what he outlines in saying that, like, these guys just want you guys to fight is absolutely correct. Because even with them, right, they're in their kind of Squid Game where Sam Altman wants to be richer than Elon Musk because he doesn't want Elon to ever have a hold on OpenAI. You know, and Elon wants to be richer than Jeff Bezos because he wants to win the space race. You know, so it's not even like, no, the interest in making humans multiplanetary is just something like, it's a nice thing to say. But if you look at these dudes, they are not moral individuals. Like, they are not.
Oh.
Tesla pays 0% tax, bruh. 0. Amazon, 0. But like,
We're in such a weird place, man.
yeah.
Oh my God, there's this series I'm watching. Okay, like I've watched all the episodes. It's called Paradise. It's on Disney Plus, and they didn't pay us for this, so I don't know why I'm saying. But it's basically based on a group of people who realize that there might be a natural disaster that happens right in the future, and they build an underground bunker, like just a bunker.
So like doomsday preppers.
Yes. So they prepare a whole city that works, that functions like the normal city. They try and as much as possible to make it as real as possible. And the whole series is about tracking down how they chose the people they chose, how they built the city they built, and all the secrets they made. And then on one episode, bro, like literally, they know that this is going to happen now. The natural disaster is happening now, right? In the White House, they get the guards, right? The Secret Service people to guard the White House and to protect the White House and to protect the people that need protection, right? When it was time to leave, the president and the people he had chosen left. They still left the people who were protecting the White House. So all the guards, all the Secret Service people, all the people that were important, none of them got into that plane. Only the chosen few got into that plane and they left. And for me, that was like, you know, because you can be a custodian of a system. You can be a custodian of whatever it is that you believe politically, economically, otherwise. When shit hits the fan and you're not part of the selected few, you will go down with the shits. So I'm just saying, you know what I mean? Like
Facts.
this thing that we are, this red race that we are on, that we keep on, you
It's
know,
not sustainable.
we keep on saying tomorrow, we'll do this tomorrow. I'll do this tomorrow. I want. No. We actually, as people that are complaining now that don't have enough, we actually need to be thinking about how do we help each other not to be in the space? How do we support each other and get each other to be in a space where we're not lacking? We're not fighting for the breadcrumbs, and we're not competing against each other because we're not each other's
We're not
enemies.
incentivized to, if we really think about it. But I think this whole conversation for me, just to end it off, right, presents a very interesting question, you know, around foresight. You know, it's important to have foresight. You know, it's important to try your best to look into the future, perhaps to protect yourself, perhaps to even understand, maybe to even make predictions so you invest in the right companies. I don't know. Like, hey, the world will look like this, so maybe investing in this is the best decision I can make for my future and my livelihood. What would you say from your own? Because I think you have great foresight in your own right. Like, look a bit, tap into your Nostradamus, and tell me what you can see. Like, yeah, what you can
think
see
the
happening that perhaps we're not paying attention to as a society.
I think I don't think, okay, this is what I'm gonna answer. I think our best chance of survival is to stick together.
Okay.
Because what is already happening and will continue happening if we don't have a mind shift is that we'll spend all of nature's resources, all of life, trying to support the very few that are chosen and that have actually chosen themselves to be at the top of the food chain. And when it all comes down to everything, we will not have anything. In the sense that you would have compromised your morals, you would have compromised your soul, you would have compromised the quality of life you would have lived had you just not competed with MASH. Had you just not...
Are we going, I think maybe like to go into the actual forecast, do you think we're going to choose each other?
No.
So we're like, the world is doomed.
I don't want to believe that. But that's...
But you just basically outlined how the world could get doomed, and you
Yeah.
said we're not going to do the
Because
things to actually save ourselves.
Because, and the reason I say that is because for you to be able to start doing that, right, you need to have the enlightenment of understanding the fact that you cannot do this alone. You cannot survive by yourself. And
People are too interested in wanting to survive by this.
we have created a world where people are isolated. We have devices that do all these things for us so that we don't have to interact with people. And by the way, annoyance and irritation is the price we pay for being around people, for having community. But we remove the annoyance and the irritation with machines, with systems, with whatever, because we don't want to interact with people. But the more we isolate ourselves, the more we make dumb decisions. If you think about the prodigal son, bro, he took his money, spent it, and when he realized, like, oh my gosh, like, I spent all my money, he isolated himself. He could have at that point went back to his father and said, yo, I'm so sorry. He wouldn't have had to deal with eating pig food or doing all the things he did, but he isolated. And if you think about the end of that story, nobody was blaming him. His father was like, yo, come back. And that's the same thing with community. You can always go back to it. You can always build it. But we're not going to do it because we are building systems that separate us, that separate each other. So I don't think it's going to happen. I hope we get to a point where we get it, but I don't think we will.
Interesting.
What do you think?
I think we're about to end it. Huh. If I was to give a forecast, I mean, you spoke a lot on like that. Let me make something from an economic prediction standpoint, right? I think one of the best things to sort of create a competitive advantage for yourself is you see this craze how mental health rightfully so, people started paying more attention to, but it's like it became a buzzword. So it became commodified or commoditized. And it was like more was happening than was supposed to, I would say. And I think the same is happening right now with the commodification of female bodies in the context of like OnlyFans, right? If I'm using OnlyFans as an example, and people are saying, yo, your body, your choice. It's like people are supporting like, yo, full autonomy, like just let her do whatever she wants with her body and all that, right? I feel like the same way we have so much money being invested into tech platforms or like apps to help people with their mental health and like psychologists and people going to therapy becoming more of a thing. There's so much money to be made in the crash of the OnlyFans industry. Like how broken those people are gonna be.
Damn.
You get it.
Damn. I get you, but I'm like, damn.
Yeah, I just think it's getting too much, dude. I think it's
I hear you, and I think it's going to, but I'm just like,
like,
how do
dude,
you think of that?
I deleted. No, because it's something that I've been experiencing firsthand. I deleted my actual Twitter, like from my phone. So I only, because I like engaging with like crypto content.
Yeah.
Like that's 80% of the reason why I'm still on Twitter. Because a big part of like the crypto community is speaking and engaging on Twitter. But every third post is just pornographic content, right? Even when you go on a post and you're trying to go through the replies, it's like someone's naked or it's just
Damn.
crazy. So I literally
I'm not on
deleted.
Twitter that much.
I literally deleted the app, like the app on my phone now, and I only go on Twitter on my MacBook, and I literally go on the search bar and search whatever key term that's been making waves to see that the conversation. But even with that, like, because I'll eventually just press the home button, scroll, and I'll still see like content, right? And it's less on Instagram. Like Instagram is more like soft porn, but it's still there. You get me? Like, but it's, I mean, with Instagram, it's way less. But on Twitter, it's bad, bro. Like, it's bad.
And on that note, peace
Peace
sign
sign
for
for
the
the
peace
peace out.
out. Down.